Let me organize that afternoon tea.
Hey, welcome back to the channel. So in this episode, we're going to talk about Drew. He is the second esper that every player will get in this life. And he is proven to be very, very good times and times again. It is because of his nature as an assassin, and he is really, really good when you are in need of someone who can kill multiple enemies at once. So, first of all, we're going to see his first skill. So, his first skill, he attacks one enemy, damage 130% attack. So, we know that in average, the first skill of every single Esper will usually deal around 120% damage. This one, Drew, can go up to 130%. That's already a good start. And upon a crit, that's Judgment cooldown minus 1 turn. That's Judgment is the third skill. So because of this ability, he is one of the best character who can get the most benefit out of the Astralis set. Because Astralis grants a 25% chance of getting an extra turn when the Esper takes action. So this extra turn will be able to make Drew use his first skill much more often. And it doesn't stop only there, because his second skill have only 2 turns cooldown. The thing is, in theory, if you think about it, like a 3 turns cooldown skill, when you use it, in the next turn, it will go down to 2, and then after that, you use your second skill, and then in the next turn, you use your first skill, and then you will be able to use your third skill again. But with a cooldown of only just 2 turns, that is that if you use your second skill, and then you use your third skill, then you will be able to use your second skill again. But again, the AI of Drew doesn't usually use his second skill first. It is always going to depend on the situation. So, if he happens to use his second skill, which only happens if all the enemies are still full health or still much likely very, very healthy, then he will be using his second skill. And then after that, the scenario of second skill, third skill, and second skill will happen. But if in any case he used his third skill first, and then after that his third skill will be on cooldown, he used his second skill, and then his second skill will be on cooldown, and then the next turn he will use his first skill. Then on the next turn, his second skill and his third skill will be off cooldown at the same time. So even though his second skill have 2 turns cooldown, on that specific turn, he will use his third skill. So there is no point of having your second skill ready at that point in time unless your enemy are still very much healthy. But then again, the AI sometimes will prefer to use his third skill at that point in time because he's been holding on to his third skill for far too long. So that's why the cooldown of 2 turns is not necessarily good, but you can make use of that situation if you have Astralis. Because if you have Astralis, in the situation where you have your second skill and your third skill off cooldown at the same time, and you happen to trigger your Astralis, you will be able to use both skill in the same turn, and then not wasting any turn for an extra cooldown. That's how good Drew is using Astralis. And then the second skill attacks one enemy, damage 220% attack. This is nice. This is quite high. And then after that, it has an 85% chance of inflicting defense down for 2 turns. And just like in the previous episode where we were talking about Brian have the attack up and defense down, which attack up increase your damage by 30%, your attack by 30%, and then defense down reduce the enemy's defense by 60%, essentially making you deal double damage to your target, but only to a single target. That's the only downside from Brian as a rare Esper. So Drew now have another defense down, which is going to increase his damage by a lot. The only thing that he is lacking is the attack up buff, so he requires another Esper to be paired with him who has the attack up buff. And then the third skill now attacks one enemy, damage 260% attack. This is quite high, although usually, like most of the time, every single Esper, especially the attack type Esper, they always going to have around 240% or 270% attack damage on their third skill. This is why in the previous episode, Brian have 300% attack, which is considered very, very high. But the thing is that Drew, on top of 260% attack, if he managed to land the killing blow on that target, he will straight away cut into the next lowest HP target with 150% attack damage, but it ignores the enemy's defense. And this is the insane part about Drew. For those of you who just started playing the game, do not underestimate this number, because this number can crit. So the critical damage of this number is insanely huge, because you totally ignore the enemy's defense, hence you will deal full damage to your target. And that can result even higher than 260% attack that he initially dealt to his first target. Sometimes if you fight against a high defense enemies like Donar or a tanky support Esper, it is sometimes even better if you just try to go aim for the squeeziest target in their lineup, in your enemy's lineup, and try to last hit him or her using Drew's third skill. And the moment he jumps to the enemy's Donar or the enemy's tanky support, he will deal the most insane damage because he ignores that target's defense. And it triggers up to 2 times per turn. So if you also manage to kill your second target, he will jump to a third target, dealing the same 150% attack damage that can crit. So this is the insane part about Drew. And here's the thing, there are a lot of game modes in Dislyte which requires you to clear the stage in a certain amount of turns. So under several a number of turns, you need to finish the stage, and also the leaderboards count your number of turns that you require in order to clear the stage. So if you do want to clear the stage as fast as possible, but you don't have Leora, we will go into Leora later on. But if you only know about a rare Esper, the best one is going to be Drew in terms of cutting the amount of turns necessary for you to clear a stage. So this will prove really useful for Ritual Miracle, and then for Dislyte Lands, or any other game modes that count up your number of turns required for you to finish the stage and then put you in leaderboard. So Drew is really good at that particular job. Here's the thing about rare Esper. This is the use of rare Esper. Like, they don't really have that much utility compared to a legendary Esper, hence that's why the Dislyte team put them into a rare Esper. But in one thing that they aim for that particular Esper to do, like the job of that Esper, they really good at doing that one job. So in the previous episode, we know that Brian is very much versatile. So for Drew, his one job that he is really good at is to cut the number of turns required for you in order to kill or finish the stage. And that is Drew. And not even without that, his damage is also considered very high, because in total you can see that his first skill is above average damage, his second skill is also above average damage, and he also inflict defense down for 2 turns, which only has a cooldown of 2 turns, meaning that the enemy will have permanent defense down. So you can also use him when you are fighting a boss like in the Sonata, and he will inflict defense defense down permanently on the boss, and he will be proved really useful if you still don't have that many Esper to choose from. And then his third skill also, even though the 260% attack is kind of considered in the middle, like it's still considered high, but the bonus part is here. He can kill 3 targets in the same turn. And then we're going to go into the advancement. Like if you want my recommendation, then the moment you get Drew as your second Esper in this game, you can just go all the way invest on Drew, because he is really good to go into level 6 as fast as possible. And then his resonance is just like any other rare Espers. The first, the third, the fifth, and the sixth are all increasing his basic stats. So we're going to see his second and fourth resonance. The second one, he heals 20% of his maximum HP whenever he kills someone. And you know that he is really good at killing people. So the moment he managed to kill 3 people using his third skill, he instantly healed back to full health. And then after that, when an enemy is killed, he also gained a bonus of 20 speed. How good is that? And it doesn't stop from there, because his Divinate increase his piercing strikes damage, which is his first skill, and it increases his damage if his speed is above the targets. So in terms of stats, you don't really want to give him much speed, because this only increases your first skill damage, so it doesn't help you in your second and the third skill. So just a nice speed like plus 30 here is considered quite alright, because you don't need him to be the first one to move. You need him to be the last one to move instead, because he needs the enemy to be have low enough health for you to be able to straight away use his third skill and just kill 3 enemies at the same time straight away at the beginning of his turn. So that's your aim. So he needs to be the last one to move, but then because of his resonance just now that increases his speed right after he kills someone, the next time he uses his first skill, because his third skill will be on cooldown, then the damage will be increased. That's the synergy of his resonance and divinate for Drew. Now we're going to Ascension. His Ascension, the first one and the second one, attack and defense, quite balanced, it's alright. And then the third Ascension here, add the ignores defense on his third skill, which you definitely require to have. Grab this as soon as possible. Then the fourth one increases his health, which increases his survivability just a little bit, just like the same as Brian. Like he doesn't have any survivability skill, so he relies on his support Esper, on his allies to survive, but the nice addition of health here doesn't hurt. Now his fifth Ascension increase his crit rate by 10%, so it doesn't really increase that much, but it does help in you distributing your stats to critical damage and attack instead of critical rate. And then after that, his last Ascension increase his attack by 20%. And this is important. Why Drew get his attack increased from his Ascension? You need to understand, because if you think about it, his third skill here can crit, and it ignores defense. So why not stack as much critical damage as possible through Drew? The reason is because it's not always gonna be the case when the low health enemy will be of the element that is weak against Drew. There will be a case where you need to hit someone who has a stronger element than Drew just because that target has a low health. And that's why having a high attack, meaning that it will help you in guarantee that you will kill that target even if you get a miss attack. So a miss attack on a stronger element than Drew is really bad for Drew if you keep stacking critical damage for him, because if he fails to kill that first target, that means that he will not follow up on his a follow-up attack here, the one that ignores defense. So that first skill is very, very important. So you do want to have a very high attack here, which I have 3800 for Drew, and just a nice amount of critical damage here, which is 135%. So because he has a little bit of health boost used from his ascension, he already sitting nice enough on plus 12,000 HP here, even though in all of my equipment I don't have that much health to begin with. Like, I don't have any bonus health to give to him from all of my equipment. It's just this one, HP plus 800. So this is his natural health if you manage to get him into level 6 Divinate. So it's already good enough. So speed, just nice to be the last one to move. Critical rate, just nice to guarantee you a critical hit. And also if you happen to use an Esper, a support Esper that can give him a critical rate up, it won't go too much above the cap of 100% critical rate. So 65%, I already have an excess of 5% here, but that is alright. And 135% critical damage is just good enough here. And then after that we can go to the rival rune. Just like the same idea, the Dislyte developer, they know exactly what Drew needs, which is attack bonus. So they gave him the war machine here, the war equipment, and also the grow for him to survive a little bit without any while waiting for your healer to heal him up. So everything just sits nicely for Drew. So if you do want to see him in action, we are going to see like the AI here, just to give you an example of when will Drew use his second skill and when will Drew use his third skill. So if you go here, now we will see what Drew will use first. So because everybody is still pretty much healthy, we still don't know what he will use, whether he's gonna use his second skill or his third skill. Now look, because everybody is still healthy, the AI decide to use his second skill because that is the most efficient use of his fast cooldown. Like I said before, second skill, go to third skill, go to second skill is the best possible scenario for Drew. Now he used the third skill because you don't want to keep that third skill for too long. You do want to just keep it in rotation. So hence this is the rotation for Drew. Now we are going to go for a weaker enemies. So if he fight against a weaker enemies, then he can, if the AI think that he can land a killing blow using his third skill, the AI will do the calculation for you. This is the best part about Drew, because you don't know, because what you see here is a percentage number of enemies' health, so you don't know whether the enemy have like how much HP to begin with, but the AI know when to use his third skill. Like just now, even though the enemy have full health, the AI knows very much that he will be able to kill that target. So that's why just leave it to the AI to make Drew choose his own abilities. Sometimes it's also a good idea, like if you do a battle and then manually control your Esper, and then when it comes to Drew's turn to move and you are not sure whether you can one hit the enemy that has like for example like 50% HP, and then you are not sure whether you can kill that target using Drew's third skill or not, just turn on the AI and then the AI will decide by himself. If the AI decide that 50% HP of that target cannot be killed by your third skill, then he will use his second skill. But if he can kill that target, he will use his third skill. This is like exploitation of the AI for Drew in Dislyte. So that's it for tonight's episode, guys. Hope you learned something about Drew, and he is like a really good Esper, and particularly even until late game. Like a lot of people forget about this, but even on late game I still use Drew in PvP. This is because like in PvP you are fighting against another player which has like the same level 60 espers, and sometimes if the enemy use like some squishy espers, you can pretty much kill 3 of your enemies straight at the beginning of your turn. So that is really strong for Drew. And even in real-time battle, if you can manage to make use of Drew, like you can turn a losing battle into a winning one, because Drew can single-handedly kill 3 Esper by himself. So that's how strong Drew is, and that's why I fully recommend you to go level 60 for Drew, just because he is really strong at late game. And also, if you do grind your cube miracle, he helps in cube miracle by a lot in this one, in the cube miracle. So cube miracle, he helps this stage by a lot, a ton of times, because there are skills here that you can get that makes your single target damage do splash damage, and that is insanely strong on Drew, because his ignore defense damage now deals splash damage to all 5 enemies, and you can just straight up deal 1 million damage in here. And then on Infinity Tower, it helps you clear it faster. Calamity Island, especially if you go into the Inferno one, Drew is really useful in here, because you have a limit of how many turns you can move to finish the stage. And then Temporal Tower also, it's really useful to have Drew. And then after that, Ritual Miracle, especially Falsetto Fantasy, because you need 15 Esper in here. If you still don't have that many legendaries, then Drew is one of your choice of DPS. And then Dislyte Lens also, you can still use Drew. Everything, you can use Drew for everything. That's why he is one of the Esper, like a rare Esper that I'm still using. Like if you can see me, I sort my Esper depending on my favoritism, like whether they are still useful for me or not. And there are 3 rare Espers here that I still use at this late of the game. So hope you guys learned something from here, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.